Hi everyone, for today's video I have something from Dior. So it's actually a 5 Couleurs Couture, and this was actually gifted to me by my cousin for my 41st birthday. And the 5 Couleurs Couture that I have here is in the color 859 in pink coral. So it's a very pretty color, and I think it's perfect also for the summer season. Especially here in the Philippines now that it's technically summer here because it's the start of the dry season, so it's been very warm and very humid lately. So I think this is a nice color to use, just to bring a nice pop of color into bright sunny days. Now, of course, this also came with two brushes. As always, now I always said in previous videos that if you have brushes like these that come with the eyeshadow palettes from either Dior or Chanel, do save it because they might come in handy sometimes, especially if you're traveling around and you don't want to bring a lot of brushes. Okay, now just by looking at the color story of this Quint, it's not earth-shattering. So we have seen this type of a color combination before, but then again, the depth and the intensity of colors differ. So for example, I have this eyeshadow quad from Chanel, and this is in Tisse Cambon. So we can see that it has almost the same color story, except that this one is a little bit cool and this one has some warmth to it, especially the color here in the middle. So when I first picked the pink coral Quint up, I said to myself, I think this reminds me of one of their limited edition releases, and it was actually the pink sakura Quint. So but looking at it now and I'm putting it side by side, the pink sakura here is cooler while this one has more vibrancy to it. Now I think the pink sakura is available because I checked the Dior website right before I did this video, and I was so surprised to see this on their website under the limited tab. So if you are interested to know more about this Quint, the pink sakura Quint, I'm going to put a link down in the description box to my review for this when I first found this. So I have here the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette. So it still has this very rosy hue here, and if I just hang on, we can see that there are some colors that are quite similar to each other, but the depth is very, very different. Now that I have the pink coral Quint from Dior, and if I just pair this with the other pink eyeshadows and these violet eyeshadows that I have in my collection, it's gonna be quite robust because at least it will give me a lot of dimension and diversity in the color range. And also one other thing, where is it? Hang on. So I actually added some of the Viseart Petit Mattes into my collection, especially the editorial brights here. So most of them are matte, and we know that the Dior eyeshadows are very runway and they have a lot of shimmer and glitter in them. Well, for this Quint, I don't think this one has glitter. So at least with this in my collection and some of the mattes here that I have from Viseart, I can use them in tandem together, because truthfully these Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette, although it's a very beautiful palette, but it's just way too heavy for me to be carrying around when I am working. So unfortunately I would have to leave this, and I am actually planning of depotting the Divine Rose 2 palette because I just don't want the very heavy packaging with me all the time. Alright, so at this point of the video, I'm going to swatch this Dior Quint, and let's see how it looks like on my arm and how it pops from my skin color. Alright, so I'm going to start swatching these first two pinky shades here. And I do have to say it feels very buttery in my fingertips, feels very smooth. So I'm going to swatch it here now. Okay, that's a very frosty pink, and this one is a very nice vibrant pink, so that actually is quite pretty. Alright, so now I'm going to swatch the middle color here, which is the gold tone. It also feels very buttery, and I'm going to swatch it here. Okay, so it's actually quite muted. It's not super sparkly, but I think having this in the Quint right now will be a nice balance into the other quite vibrant shades that we have in the palette. Alright, so next I'm going to swatch these two colors. So I'm gonna pick this color first, and of course this one. Ooh, again, they're very smooth to the touch. It's very amazing, and we can see that this taupey color here is actually very vibrant, and then the matte shade here is also very opaque. So let's swatch this. Put it here. Okay, that's very pretty, but again, it's not like, I've seen this color before. Ooh, that's also quite nice. It's a little bit powdery, but not so bad. And it's not as opaque as I thought it was going to be. Like, as I start swatching it here on my arm, its true tone actually comes out. So it's not overly opaque, but it has enough pigment to actually add some dimension into the eyes. Now let me just pick up the Divine Rose 2 palette, and let's pick up the vibrant color here and try to see how it will compare to the other pink colors here on the pink Corolle palette. And I'm just going to put it here. So the pinks here are very different, wherein the pink from the Divine Rose 2 palette has some warmth in it, so it has like, some gold, while the pink in the pink Corolle is more blue tone. So that's actually quite good. So let me just pick up the other deep shade here from the Divine Rose 2 palette, and as you can see here, my pinky finger, it looks almost the same. So let's just watch it beside that. So this matte shade from the Divine Rose 2 palette is actually more opaque. It has more intensity, and it leans towards the more violet side of the color spectrum, because the deeper shade here on the pink Corolle palette has it leans more towards the purple, so it's cooler, not as warm. All right, so what other... Okay, here, so let me pick up the Chanel quad. So this is the Tise Cambon, and I'm gonna pick up this shade here because this looks quite similar to this shade from the Dior Quint, and I'm gonna swatch it here. So they're almost the same, but I do have to say that this shade here from the Chanel quad is more golden taupey. It has like, a brownie undertone in it, so maybe like, think cashmere, like that. But this shade here from the Dior Quint has a much more cooler tone, like, more blue tones in it. So it actually works quite well with the color story of this Quint. So just by doing this activity, I think that if you have green eyes or blue eyes, this will really like, pop on your eyelids. And if you have like, green undertones in your skin, I think this will be very good too. So I'm quite excited to try this out today. Alright, so let me just scoot a little bit closer so that we have a much more nicer view of the eyeshadow on my eyes. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to be playing around with these three colors here, because if you take a look at the packaging of the 5 Couleurs Coutures, there's actually like, a part here wherein it indicates that if you are going to use the 3 colors, the lighter shade, that gives you a much more lighter impact of color, and then if you want to have a much more intense look, you use the deeper shades together. So maybe that's what we're going to be doing today, and then I'm sure I'm going to end up using all of the 5 eyeshadow colors in my eyes. So I do not have any eye primer on because I want to see how true the colors are of this Quint, and let us begin. Okay, so first I'm going to start with picking up the lightest pink shade here on the palette, and I'm going to apply that here on my socket line. So this will be our transition shade. It's quite frosty, I have to say, now that the color is here on my eyelid, which is also like which is kind of good to a certain degree, because at least it'll add light into that part of my eye, especially like, I'm a little bit hooded. So we always need something to add some brightness into that area. Alright, so now I'm going to go into full Barbie mode, and I'm going to be picking up this very vibrant pink here. Look at that. And I'm going to apply this all over my mobile lid. And I'm just going to continuously tap it and to spread it, and I'm just building the intensity of the color. That looks quite nice on the eyelid, I have to say. Very pretty. Okay, now I'm going to flip the brush over, and whatever is left here on the tips of the bristles, I'm just going to drag that along my socket line and blend out the color into the transition shade that I applied earlier. Here I'm picking up more of the color and just building on the intensity because I really want this to pop on my eyelids today. And I really love, like, the worker brushes from Sonia G if I just want to build intensity and also to blend it out at the same time. They really work quite effectively. And I do have to say now that I am, just building the color on my eyelid, I don't see any fallout on my upper cheeks, so that's actually quite great. So that's a testament to the formulation of the eyeshadow Quint and also of the makeup brush of Sonia G. Okay, now with this pencil brush, I'm going to pick up the pink shade here, and I'm going to use that here on my lower lash line. So what I'm doing now is I'm just building intensity and also trying to create a nice shape for my eye. Okay, and now I'm just adding more of the color here on the outer V portion and building it into my socket line. And I'm just using the same pencil brush, so this will add some intensity into the areas where I want to add intensity. And now with the Blender Pro, I'm going to be picking up a teeny bit of the pink, like the vibrant pink here, and I'm just going to slowly build the color here into the outer portions of my socket line because we really need to create a lift for my eye shape. I'm winging it out a bit so that I have a lift going on. Okay, just a little bit more, maybe in this portion of my socket line. Okay, and now I'm going to pick up this gold shade here with the PS4 brush from Chikuhodo. I love this brush. And this is what I'm going to apply the color with here in the middle of my eyelid. Ah, that's beautiful. At least it's added some warmth into my lid. It's also adding a bit of dimension and brightness, so that's actually very pretty. And maybe I'm going to add a little bit of that here into my brow area, and also a little bit of that here in the inner corners, the usual areas where we need to add more light. Oh, that's very nice and very subtle. I like it, but I am finding it a little bit too pink, so we need to add dimension into this eye look. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up a smudger brush, and I'm going to use the deepest shade here. So I'm picking up a tiny amount here at the tips of the bristles, and I'm just going to use this to line my upper lash line with it so that we just have some dimension. I'm just making sure that it's not too stark, making sure that it looks soft and well blended. There you go. That's quite nice. Then let me just lift that a little bit and blend it into the surrounding colors. Good, much better. Because I was finding that the pink was just a little bit too bright and it was making me look a little bit sickly, and it was just reflecting a lot of the light back into the world. So at least having this very subtle depth of color in the outer portions of my eye and here on my lash line, it's just making my eye look come out more. So this is actually good. Okay, and now I'm just going to add some mascara. So this is a brown mascara. This is from a local brand here in the Philippines, and this has fibers in it just to add some volume and dimension into the lash lines. And because this is quite a nice and soft eye look, I don't want a stark mascara application on my lashes. Okay, so I'm going to unscrew the other part of the mascara because this actually has a much more smaller brush in the other end. And this will just really help me to add some detailing. Alright, so I do love this very nice playful eye look that we were able to create with the lighter shades of the Dior 5 Couleurs Coutures in Pink Corolle. So let's now continue and create a much more intense look using the other shades of the palette. Alright, first I'm going to start by using this very vibrant pink shade again. And I'm going to use this color along my socket line. So I'm hoping that this will be a much more better transition shade, because what I found with this color is that it was just too frosty and it's not going to give you any dimension. So this color is good like maybe as a highlighter of sorts, or you know, if you want to put it in your mobile lid, it's a much more better color for that, but not for a transition shade. So I'm just buffing in the color well into my socket line, and I'm blending it out at the same time. Okay, always make sure that you have to stop midway so that when you look in the mirror, you can see where the color has, like, you know, blended into. And I'm quite happy on how it has actually blended quite well into my socket line and into, like, you know, the outer portions of my socket line here, because that's the area where I really need to add some, like, you know, depth and dimension to create a lift in my eye. So I'm just going to pick up the brush that I used earlier, like, you know, the pencil brush, and I'm just going to smudge this line some more, my socket line, so that we have a much more softer definition of color there. So with the same pink shade, I'm just going to apply that again here all over my lower lash line. And I'm also going to create a lift here and try to connect that into the colors that I created here into the socket line. But this will just really create a much more fuller lift into my eye shape. Now this pink shade has some shimmer in it, but it's not so overpowering the way that you know, this lighter pink shade here has more overpowering glitters. So at least with this color, we will be able to create more dimension with it. And now I'm going to pick up this color from the deepest shade on the Quint with the smudger brush, and this is what I'm going to use now to add a ton of intensity on my eyes. And I'm just, like, you know, really tapping it slowly all over my upper lash line so that we get a much more nicer, smokier effect. So I'm pressing the pigment more into the lash line now so that we have more intensity. And I'm going all the way into the inner corner of my eyes. And now what I'm going to do is, with the same brush, I'm just going to spread it at an angle, at an upward angle, so that it spreads nicely into my mobile lid. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because as you guys can see here in the palette, it has a lot of shimmer in it. So if I put any shimmer eyeshadow as, like, you know, a base color in my mobile lid, I'm going to have trouble building intensity into my lashes, because what happens is if you put a matte eyeshadow color on top of a shimmer color, it will become a shimmery eyeshadow. So at least in putting a matte color down first, you're going to get the true color of the eyeshadow, and you're going to have more depth and definition in that part of the eye. And I'm also going to apply that here in my lower lash line. I'm concentrating the color here in the outer portions of my lower lash line, and maybe just applying it midway on my lower lashes. And of course, we have to create a lift. It's very, very important. And we have to create some blending and depth in the outer V portion. Ooh, that's actually going quite nicely. I love the depth that it's creating. So at least we have a very nice, like, you know, soft, smoky eye kind of a look, but colorful also at the same time. So it's actually quite nice. So let me just continue to build the intensity in this portion of my eye. So now I have a much more denser and a smaller smudger brush, and I'm going to pick up the deepest shade again here. And I'm just going to add more intensity on my lash line here, because I really want it to be much more deeper. And I'm also going to add some of that here on my lower lash line. And let's just blend everything out. Again, blending is always the key. Okay, so I'm actually able to see some fallout, which is fine because it always happens no matter what, especially when you're blending so much on your eyes. So now that I'm looking at this eyeshadow look on my eye, I'm actually liking how it is looking. And mind you, I've only used two colors so far, the nice vibrant pink and the deep violet shade on the Quint. And I also love that the natural yellow tones of my skin is actually like, showing through. And it's adding a very nice dimension of color and story into my eyelid. So I'm actually debating if I want to apply this color all over my mobile lid because I am wanting to apply this very nice warm tone instead. So I'm torn. So because we are going to be creating a much more intense look, let's settle for this very glittery eyeshadow. So I picked up the color using the Lotus blender, and I'm just going to tap it ever so gently into my mobile lid, and that is actually quite pretty, I have to say. So let me pick up more of that, and I'm just concentrating the color here in the middle of my lid. Ooh, and I can actually see some pinky tones coming out, and very nice violet tones, and it's kind of working with our eyeshadow look today. So that's actually quite pretty. So now what I want to do for a more added dimension, I'm going to pick up the gold eyeshadow color here. And this is what I'm going to use to add some highlights here in the inner corner. And I'm going to blend that into this glittery eyeshadow shade. And I'm going to bring that well into the inner portion of my lower lash line as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of that here for more drama. So let me pick up more of that gold eyeshadow color here, and let us just apply more of that color here in the inner corner for more brightness and more drama. So that just also really helps to open up the eyes. Oh, it's quite pretty. So now what I want to do is with the Pencil Pro from Sonia G, I want to apply a teeny tiny bit of the deepest shade here, and I'm going to apply that here along my socket line, just for some detailing work and also for some dimension. It's actually quite nice. I like it. It's a very subtle smoky eye look, but it's quite playful also at the same time. So it's not your typical smoky eye look that you create usually with a lot of deeper shades in blues or blacks. So it's actually quite pretty, and I love the way that it's just playing very well with the undertones of my skin. And because this eye look is more dramatic and more intense, we have to have a much more intense eyelash look. So this is the Maybelline, what is this? The Falsies Lash Lift. So this is in black, so it's a much more deeper shade. So this will really work well with this eye look. I'm just going to add a much more nicer intensity and drama. Look at that. Amazing mascara. Amazing. I love this. Let me get that as close to my inner lashes as possible so that it looks more fluttery, and maybe just a little bit here on my lower lash line, not too much. Now look at that. So at least I don't want to use any false eyelashes, because if you put false eyelashes on this Scholar's Story, it's just going to drown out the pinky tones of this eyeshadow look. Alright, so at this portion of the video, I'm just going to zoom over my makeup application, from foundation, concealer, powder, finishing powder, blush, eyebrows, things like that, because I actually want to see how well this eyeshadow look will look when my makeup is actually complete. So by the way, before I continue, I have only all of my skincare down, and if you want to know what I have on my skin, I'm going to put it down on the description box. Well, everything will be on the description box, okay? So now let's start with foundation application. so that's my brows down, and let me just pick up more of the Guerlain Meteorites in Doré, and I'm just going to add more warmth into my cheeks and a little bit here on my forehead. Now for lips. So I actually want to use more of this Komachi Beni that I got when I went to Japan. And I've talked about this product recently in a previous video. So if you're interested to know more about Komachi Beni, I'm going to put a link down in the description box to that. Okay, so as you guys can see, the water is activating the red pigments of this Beni. And I'm using quite a nice, amount of water because I don't want to have a very strong lip color. And I'm just going to apply this like as a stain over the lip. I think I added way too much pigment, so let me add more water and let me dilute that on the lips. Okay, so I'm just being very light-handed with my application of the Beni on my lips, and I'm saturating the product with more water so that we just have this very nice, delicate stain on my lips because I don't want the eyeshadow to be overpowered with us today. And of course, a good thing with this Beni is you're also able to apply very nice detailing work on your lips. Okay, so that's the lip color that I want. Very nice stain, very gentle. Of course, you can always play this up if you want to add more gloss. You can do it because at least with the Beni, as soon as it dries, it really sets on your lips. Just make sure that you don't apply like a lip balm prior or a lip gloss because the Beni will not stay on your lips and it will just maintain this very wet look. So if you want it to stay, use the Beni on top of dry lips and nothing else. And mind you, it will not be transferable. It will be smudge proof. So that's what's amazing about Beni. So now that I have this lip color on, I want to add some color into my cheeks. I initially was not planning on applying color on my cheeks, but I'm going to use my Tonoko today. So this is a very powdery pink pastel-y kind of a color, and I'm going to be using Sonia's mini Kiyaki buffer for this because I just want a hint of color on my cheeks, so just enough to tie it with the pinky tones of my eyeshadow look. And I'm going to apply some more of that here on the other side. Alright, so I really love this. We have this very nice subtle blush color. We have a very nice subtle lip color, but we have a very nice and playful eyeshadow look. May it be a light look or a much more intense look. Alright, so that's my vlog for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how I am getting to know the Dior Fab Couleurs Couture in Pink Coral. And if you have any more questions about my experience with this eyeshadow Quint, please let me know down in the comments box and then let's have a conversation about it, okay? Alright, so I'm going to let you go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye-bye.